so in love with you.
Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today's video is going to be absolutely bonkers. Now, the data is in, and Eviction Lab has recently updated their eviction reporting software. So we're going to deep dive into what's happening around the US as far as evictions. The reality is asking rents are inching closer and closer to their record highs. The problem with that is the rental market is already so unaffordable, and all of the COVID eviction bans and rental help is now gone. And the reality is, y'all, if we lose the rental market, we will lose the housing market. Deep down, I can't help but think that Airbnb helped to cause this rental market crisis. The reason I say that is if I convert my rental property into an Airbnb, even though it's in a residential neighborhood, I can make 25 to 30% more money, even at an occupancy rate under 50%. Let me show you. This is B&B Calculator. You can actually put a property in here. You can import it from Zillow and actually calculate how much money you can make from running an Airbnb. This is absolutely crazy. And you guys understand my philosophy. We shouldn't be having these types of hotels or lodges in residential neighborhoods. But let me show you what happens when I put my own home in here. It says that I can make $45,000. That's roughly $9,000 more than I'm making on my gross rent right now. And the really crazy thing is if you guys look here, this is at a 46% occupancy rate. So according to this, it makes a lot more financial sense to run an Airbnb or short-term rental versus a long-term rental. Overall, I think it's helping to lead to the massive skyrocketing trajectory of evictions across the US. And remember, you guys, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a normal person, even though my bio is as a realtor, loan officer, and provider instructor for real estate in Texas. So I know a little bit, and if you guys can't, don't forget, please like this video. This will be linked in my description if you guys want to come here. This is Eviction Lab and really one of the only eviction tracking systems. And as you guys can see here, this was actually updated August 5th. What I want to hone in on is basically you guys can see that pretty much all of the states here that they're tracking, you guys can see on the right side here, the eviction trajectory is increasing. But really what I want to hone in on is taking a look at the entire state of Minnesota, because from what I can tell, out of these states, Minnesota is in the worst shape. Let me show you. Here's the entire state of Minnesota. The entire state of Minnesota right now is 24% above, you guys, above pre-pandemic averages. The trajectory of evictions in Minnesota is absolutely skyrocketing. But I will point out, even though the trajectory is skyrocketing worse than any other state in the US, there's still only, and I say only, but it could be still high, but there's only a 4% eviction rate. This chart is measuring the eviction filings relative to the average. The average is that dotted line right here. So you guys can see that Minnesota has been in extremely bad shape for well over a year. So really the question is how much longer can the tenants even last in Minnesota? And when we go down to the map here and we click relative to average, you guys can also put filing rate right here, and it will tell you what the filing rate is. For example, in Clay County, the filing rate is 5% of renters. And when we compare this to Las Vegas and Houston, that's really not that bad, but it is definitely way above normal. And we can see that when we hit relative to average. So we go back to Fargo and we can see this is double the average. So it's up 104% from average. And the really interesting thing, guys, is if we look at Minneapolis right here, if you go north of Minneapolis, there's not a huge eviction filing. And if we go south right in here, not a huge eviction filing. And what I noticed is this is a predominant area right here where there's Airbnbs south of Minneapolis and north of Minneapolis. I'm very curious to find a correlation between Airbnb and eviction filings. I want to show you guys what's happening in Miami, Florida, because Miami, Florida right now is going through some crazy things. Let me show you guys right now by viewing the report. The first thing I want you guys to pay attention to is we're already 30% above the average. So we're 130% of average with an eviction filing rate of 5%. So we'll compare Houston and Las Vegas here in a second, but 5% is still high, especially when we compare the average. And you guys can see from this chart of monthly eviction filings relative to average, as of August of last year, so about 1 year ago, is really when Miami started spiraling out of control with the trajectory of their evictions. Basically, for the last year, Miami's evictions filings has been absolutely skyrocketing. And when we hit the relative to the average, we can see just how bad some places are, like just south of Fort Lauderdale, up 168% from average. That is huge. But right across the street, it's down 72% from average. So not all areas are experiencing a massive surge in eviction. But the really alarming thing is some areas are experiencing out of control evictions, like this census tract being up 138% from average. That's pretty crazy. And then we go to kind of downtown Fort Lauderdale, we're 70% up from average as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on in Miami, probably as a result of the locals not being able to keep up with the housing market. I want to play a video for you guys real quick about the condition of the rental market in Miami right now. Now, it is an absolute war in Miami between tenant and landlord. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, some of these landlords that you're about to hear about seem like absolute scummy people who have no care on earth for the tenants. Take a listen to this video.
The effort now helping put a pause on evictions in Liberty City. Tenants are turning to local organizations and the Miami-Dade County Mayor's office seeking help.
And it's for what they call legal evictions and bad living conditions. CBS News Miami's Joe Gorcho is at Lincoln Fields Apartments to learn about their crisis.
I've been living in this about 10 years now. And my grandkids.
A woman who goes by Miss Kendrick lives inside an apartment at Lincoln Fields in Liberty City, points to what she believes is mold in the home.
They paint over it and then they come back out.
On Tuesday, Kendrick joined fellow tenants and community organizations in the parking lot, calling on the apartment's property management company to address what they say are unsanitary, unsafe living conditions.
We can do better.
Miami Workers Center Executive Director Sandra Dennis spotlights another looming threat: evictions. Signs from tenants and community activists call for it to end.
We have been working closely to offer support to the impacted residents.
Morris Copeland works for the Miami-Dade County Mayor's office. The goal is to prevent all families from being displaced through county programs and free legal services.
The 30 tenants right now who are facing eviction. We've been successful in several of them getting them dismissed.
County officials tell us the management company in charge receives federal funds from Housing Urban Development, not county dollars for affordable housing.
We met with HUD in the state, and on two different occasions, they have started preliminary investigations.
Investigations into the eviction process and living conditions.
Terrible. It's very sad the way they doing us.
A longtime resident who calls herself Shalonda shows us photos from one of her old units she lived in at Lincoln Fields. She says what we see is mold. Shalonda tells us she's on oxygen and needs a wheelchair after doctors partially amputated her left leg.
A bone infection, and they had to amputate my leg because it gave me gangrene.
What's your message to the landlords if they could hear this today?
I wish they could do better.
Shalonda says she switched units after the operation last year. Miami Workers Center tells us the tenants want new property management. The county says it will continue offering additional financial support and work to ensure the management company meets its obligations.
The rental market out in Miami in that area is not doing so well, not only for tenants living in mold houses having amputations from gangrene, but also how are the landlords even able to allow that type of mold infestation? There's a really bad problem going on right now in the rental market, you guys. The rent went up way too much, or really shelter expenses overall went up way too much, way too quickly. And obviously our income hasn't kept up with this massive increase in rent. But let me go back into Eviction Lab and let's take a look at what's going on in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is probably in the absolute worst shape of any metro area. Las Vegas is at 164% of average for eviction filings. Las Vegas right now, quite frankly, you guys, is absolutely out of control. And not only that, they've banned so many Airbnbs, it's crazy. I think there can only be 1% of total units being Airbnb in residential neighborhoods. And I think right now there's something like 4%. The eviction filing rate is way higher in Las Vegas than both Minnesota and Miami at 16% filing rate. And think of that for a minute. If you wanted to invest for some reason in Las Vegas, 16% eviction filing rate, a 36% serial filing rate. That's 1 out of 3 tenants that landlords have to evict, or at least the same house, right? That is absolutely crazy to me, you guys. And again, this is in the face of low unemployment and the fact that school loans haven't even started yet. When we look at the monthly eviction filings relative to the average, we can see that it's just been horrible in Las Vegas. It's been bad for over a year. And odds are, you guys, as we go into even harder times throughout this year, I suspect this is absolutely going to skyrocket, and it's possible that Las Vegas has to intervene to help some of these people out. Now, when we go down to Henderson County and we click on relative to average, we can really see the impact of the eviction crisis. Right now, south of Henderson, evictions are at 164% of average. That is absolutely shocking, you guys. And when we go down here again, 100% of average, that's double. So it's double what it was pre-COVID. And again, right here, 64%. I mean, there's almost nowhere in Las Vegas, you guys. Let me zoom in. That is doing okay. I mean, there's one place right here that's down 62%. But let's look at North Las Vegas. Look at this, guys. This is up 288% from average. Las Vegas right now is in an absolute eviction crisis of biblical proportions. Do you disagree with me? 164% of average, that's absolutely shocking. So let's go into a video and listen to a little bit about what exactly is going on right now in Las Vegas.
A study says that Las Vegas already leads the nation among major cities for evictions, but the Valley is about to see a spike. Housing advocates say after some COVID protections expired over the summer, there's a surge of hundreds more families showing up in court every day.
I have no income. Unemployment ran out, and workers' comp is pending, and I'm presently looking for a job.
Jacqueline Dixon says she's being evicted from her North Las Vegas home. After a workplace injury, she tried to get help paying rent through the aid program called CHAP. She says while she was waiting months for rent to get paid, her landlord decided to evict her. She's one of many more Nevadans heading to court to fight eviction since a crucial COVID protection expired in June. Now, even if you apply for aid, you can still get evicted.
Yeah, it came as a surprise. The CHAP thing, and I hated I even got involved with that. It's just horrible.
There's a slightly higher poverty rate in North Las Vegas versus Las Vegas, and that's generally where you see a higher rates of eviction.
Housing advocates say North Las Vegas Justice Court has seen a spike in evictions in recent weeks, and the courts had to add more hours and days for cases. To help all these families, Nevada Legal Services launched a free clinic. Wednesday morning, there was a line. It's a similar situation across the Valley and Nevada.
So we're seeing huge spikes at the Regional Justice Center. A busy day was like you got over 300 people coming in for help on evictions. Now we're seeing over 400 to 500 per day. The elderly, adults with disabilities, and then families that have had that where they've fallen behind 1 or 2 months and they could have been helped.
2 bills did pass the Nevada legislature, which advocates say would have given tenants more time to respond to an eviction and kept disabled and seniors in homes. Governor Lombardo vetoed both, stating they would make our summer eviction process more time-consuming or would have made the shortage of rentals worse.
People will be evicted and their rental assistance will come in the next week.
I didn't know that a rental relief program ended in June, but they're acknowledging there's massive, like week over week, there's massive spikes in eviction filings in Las Vegas right now. Something needs to be done because the natives and the locals, again, they can't keep up with the shelter, inflation, and expenses. They see that the court is hiring more people to come in to help because there's so many eviction filings going on right now in Henderson County in the Las Vegas area. Now let's jump into my own local housing market here in Houston and let me show you what's going on. Houston is shockingly at 145% of average. So it appears to me that Houston is actually the second metro area, according to Eviction Lab, as far as the worst eviction filing rate in the nation right now. And again, this is my local housing market. So this is really, really surprising to me. Now our eviction filing, again, way higher than Minnesota, way higher than Miami. It's sitting at 10%. That is insane to me. 1 out of 10 renters has an eviction filed against them with a 23% serial filing rate, meaning the same landlord keeps having to evict tenants. Really, really crazy. But let me show you guys what's relative to average. You guys can see that Houston has been in bad shape for over a year. And natives and locals could only go through this so much, especially you guys, now that COVID relief and the rental assistance programs, they're basically gone. So this is going to skyrocket. And you can see it from June to July. The trajectory is moving up in Houston. But let me show you guys the map. Looking at relative to the average, and you guys see that, I mean, there are some insane hot spots right now. This census tract is up 258% of average. This one, 112, 1100% of average. That's insane. How is it 1100%? 100% of average, 134%. Let's go downtown, 655% of average. Oh my, that's crazy, y'all. 700% of average. I mean, there is bad things happening in Houston right now. 312% of average. Houston has problems. Let me show you guys this coastal town right here. Look at this. This right here, you guys, this is right by the beach, up 3,400% from average. So that probably is an indication that there was barely any evictions there, and there has been a sudden surge of evictions. Let me show you guys Texas City. Look at this. I don't understand this. This is up 3,400% from average. Absolutely shocking. I don't see how anyone can acknowledge that there is an eviction crisis going on right now. Now, the interesting thing is not in every metro area. So it's important to understand what's going on in your metro area or in a metro area that you want to live in or you want to invest in. Over 50% of the tenants in Houston and Harris County are struggling to make rent. I want to point out that evictions are skyrocketing right now, and school loans haven't even started, y'all. There are 43.6 million Americans that have federal student loan for a total of 1.77 trillion. Interest is actually going to start accumulating for school loans in 2 weeks, with the first payment starting October 1st. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, with the average payment being $350 to $400, that's going to create an incredible financial burden for many, many people. All of this is happening with record low unemployment sitting at 3.5%. The unemployment rate right now is so low, yet there are so many consumer data sets that show consumers are defaulting or suffering financially. So if unemployment goes from 3.5, say, to 5% and becomes unhinged, I can guarantee you guys that we haven't seen anything yet as far as an eviction crisis. As far as the rental market, obviously we needed to cool down and in fact deflate, not disinflation. We want deflation. And honestly, you guys, I think that's going to happen because of this. Not only are rent payments unaffordable, but the amount of new construction going on for multifamily buildings right now is unprecedented. Right now, they're building almost 1 million, again, under construction. So already being built, already started, already have the permits. There are almost 1 million buildings being built right now. Think about that. 1 million units under construction right now. What that means is there's going to be a dump of inventory to the rental market, which will hopefully start a chain reaction or a domino effect to help us bring back affordability and balance to the housing market. So if you're out there struggling, the only thing I can say, you guys, is do the best you can to survive through the hard times. It does change. One thing we don't want to do is we don't want to give up hope, and we don't want to give up on ourselves. Now, if you're out there investing in real estate, you guys already know I wish you luck, and I hope you win.